Go.
Good evening. It's April 9th, 2025, Wednesday. And it's my pleasure and honor to be sitting here and talking with a true war hero.
Oh boy.
A humble hero at that. Mr. Jeckovich fought during World War II as a teenager, and he ended up, his last battle was the Battle of Bulge. They held down Bastogne, which was very important, and at that time they were caught off guard by the Nazis' last-ditch effort to kill Americans and do destruction. So they got caught off guard, but they held Bastogne, and 90% of the guys holding off Bastogne were all killed. Mr. Jeckovich was lucky. It took the air support to come in, but it took 3 or 4 days because it was snowing, the coldest winter of record, very, very cold, and there was no visibility to fly. Because if the Nazis would have took Bastogne, it would have been a serious problem for the American GIs. So they basically got all their support coming in 3 or 4 days. The Battle of Bastogne and the Battle of the Bulge was very important. An interesting note when we're speaking of this, or I should say a side note, when Mr. Jeckovich was drafted into the service as a teenager, they were affectionately called the Diaper Division. Why was that?
They're like the young kids.
Kids. That's affectionately. That wasn't a sarcastic remark. But now, after they held down Bastogne, what was left, now they're referred to as the Bloody Bastards of Bastogne. The Bloody Bastards of Bastogne. Mr. Jeckovich, during this time, was shot in the shoulder, bombed, a dirty bomb. A dirty bomb is a bomb that the Nazis put bolts and tools and razors and anything that could cause a lot of harm when it blows up over your head. Mr. Jeckovich still has shrapnel from that dirty bomb, and unfortunately, his other teenage army buddy, Donald Lape, took the brunt of that hit and blew his head off, and the only thing left was a pair of glasses hanging from his ear. Mr. Jeckovich removed the glasses, closed Mr. Lape's eyes, a young teenager, and removed one dog tag. Didn't you send a nice letter to his mother and father?
Yeah.
That was a nice letter. Do you still have a copy of that?
Yeah.
You
I've had it somewhere.
I'd like to get it and read it. And at that time these are all teenagers. Teenagers are actually the best fighters.
Yeah.
A lot of people wouldn't think, but when you tip the scales at 25 years old, it still sounds young, but how does that hold up?
The younger are a simple thing.
How's a teenager compared to a 25-year-old?
They don't have the stamina.
Yeah, they don't. It's hard to think of that way, but they don't have the stamina. How would a 35-year-old, how would a 35-year-old take like a war like the Battle of the Bulge? A 35.
They couldn't sustain it.
Couldn't do it.
No.
Couldn't sustain it. That's correct. Yeah. So we're reading Mr. Jeckovich's book the second time around. We're on chapter 4, which is titled Passes the Owensboro. And Mr. Jeckovich had a short couple passes when he still at boot camp. And he went to Owensboro, and he had a lot of nice experiences. He would stay in a church. They'd let him stay there for free. He'd run about the town. He'd go to the parks and watch the kids play. He was amazed at all the civilians because the only thing he'd seen for months was guys in uniform. And then he kind of was just roaming the streets, walking, and he ended up in this neighborhood. What'd you find in that neighborhood? When you're in the neighborhood, you asked a couple girls on their front porch.
Yeah, a couple girls in a direction I was lost.
And how'd that turn out?
Well, they put me in their car and drove me around.
Yeah. That was a great story right there. Annie Mahaney, it turned out to be.
What?
Annie Mahaney, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little side note, Mr. Jeckovich started dating the girl, Annie Mahaney, from Owensboro, North Carolina, because he still had several more weeks at the camp in Evansville, Indiana. It was just a short trip by bus to Owensboro. you start dating her, and they got along quite well. And what kind of things do you guys do together? Movies?
Went to for supper, for lunch and that.
And you went to parks?
Went to park, well, still winter, but it wasn't going cold well.
Okay, so you had a nice time.
Yeah.
So when Mr. Jeckovich got shipped off overseas, he says, I will be getting back to you, and he had good intentions, but things have changed, and what happened then, you lost contact, right?
Yeah.
And then, now listen to this is very interesting. Now if you fast forward 80 years later, you did call her as you promised.
Yeah.
80 years later, Mr. Jeckovich called Ann Mahaney as he promised. A little bit late, I would say. maybe a whole generation late. But she answered the phone.
She answered the phone. She's 89 years old.
Or 90, in the 90s.
Yeah.
But she answered the phone. Could you imagine that?
Yeah.
She answered the phone, and how'd the conversation go?
Well, it didn't go too well because I couldn't understand her. She was talking real weakly.
She was feeble.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's expected for someone in the 90s, you know. But she answered the phone, and they talked, and they reminisced briefly, but she might have had a case of Alzheimer's or something.
Yeah.
And so right after that phone call, immediately after that phone call, what did you do?
I took her picture off of the wall and put my nose up there.
Why is that so important? Because he had Ann Mahaney, his World War II girlfriend, up on his office wall for decades. He removed it. The wall was stained yellow because it sat there for so long. And he took a picture of his mother and put it up there. Now we're getting to the title of the book. The book is titled Their Mother's Sons. Mr. Jeckovich took care of his mother from 11 years old to when she died at 89. So now we're getting to the book. It's a very interesting story. Now we're in Owensboro, where he's just starting to meet Ann Mahaney, and they got along just great. Well, you're looking nice in your new sweater and pants.
Yeah.
You're doing good. Did you have a nice lunch?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I heard you had a special visitor today.
A visitor today?
Amber.
Amber come in, yeah.
So how'd you two get along? Pretty good?
Oh, yeah, well, she didn't stay long.
Yeah, well, she's church.
Yeah, she's in church, yeah.
Yeah, Amber is Mr. Jeckovich's great-granddaughter, and she's a full-time missionary, so she spends most of her time in church, and in between, she comes and visits her great-grandfather. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Amber is a avid surfer. She surfed around the world. There hasn't been a country she hasn't surfed. And luckily, she just got back from Malibu, California surfing for 3 long months, and she just left on time before the fire started. So that was a stroke of luck. It was a mess once those fires started. So Amber actually lives on the ocean. She could roll out of bed, and the sand is at her feet. But I guess an avid surfer like that is always chasing a bigger wave.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get complacent with the late waves in the Atlantic Ocean, and they want to chase bigger and bigger. She surfed Hawaii, Australia, all around the world. There hasn't been a place she hasn't been in. While she's in the States, it's really nice of her coming and visit you. When I was talking to Amber this afternoon, she's a member of many churches and Bible studies. She said she wants to bring over a couple people of the church. Won't that be nice?
Oh, yeah.
A couple of younger guys, younger girls.
Yeah.
In their early 20s, and they love to see you.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be nice. And I welcome them. If they want to be in the studio, that'd be perfect.
Yeah.
That'd be perfect. So, Mr. Jeckovich was from Company H, the 2nd Battalion of the 291st Regiment of the 75th Infantry Division of the U.S. Army during World War II. Mr. Jeckovich lives by the motto, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift. As always, we have a stack of text messages. I have to ask you, do you feel up to answering questions?
Yeah.
We'll read a little bit about the book, but at least 10 or 12 texts come in a day. How much is the book and where can I buy it?
You can't buy it.
No.
Not for sale.
Okay, that's very important. The book is not for sale. Mr. Jeckovich certainly does not need any money, and you can't buy it. But here's the situation. The book was written, how many pages?
849.
Wow. The book was written to give a roadmap or a little help to the younger guys that they might have a simpler and happier life. Because don't forget, Mr. Jeckovich was born in 1925, and this year he's knocking on the door of 100. And he's been all in the war. He's had many businesses. He worked at Kimberly-Clark for 30 years, 5 years, and he wore many hats. But Mr. Jeckovich wrote that book so it could be a roadmap to younger people to maybe have an easier life, right?
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's a roadmap.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a roadmap. And by the way, Mr. Jeckovich is a great one to text questions to. As I said, his mind is like a library, but he'll give you good advice on marriage. Why? How long were you married for?
69 years.
69 years. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Unfortunately, in Florida now, we have over 90,000 divorces each and every year. And sadly to say, most of it's due to money. Most of it's due to money. Mr. Jeckovich, when he engaged to Delphine Stulak in the Roman Catholic Basilica in Tonawanda, New York, he asked for her hand in marriage. She accepted, and then they went up to the altar of the basilica, said a short prayer, asking the Lord to give them a long and happy marriage. I guess your prayer was answered.
Yeah, 69 years.
No complaints there. No complaints there. So what advice do you give to people today that want to get married?
And see who you're marrying. Make sure you know who you're marrying.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the honeymoon phase gets over fast.
Yeah.
Then the reality's right up into your face. The reality's there day by day. And especially if there's money troubles, it makes matters a lot worse. A lot worse. Marriage is kind of like hiring an employee in a way. When you hire an employee, you hire someone slowly. You take your time and vet the person and ask a million questions. Do a 2 or 3 day interview. Because if you hire the wrong employee, you're pretty well screwed.
Yeah.
They could destroy your business, especially if you have a lot of employees. It'll destroy your business if you hire the wrong employees. That's for sure. So I'm going to read a little bit about your trip to Owensboro. You're on this trip alone and you finally meet Ann Mahaney. But before I do, I'll need your dog tag number.
42965.
And here was some of the highlights of the book. The book is trying to make your life easier, but it's not trying to make wimps or sissies out of men. You must pay a price to have to know good. And there's many notes in the book about that. For example, these notes were written to his grandchildren or great-grandchildren. I really like for them to know about hand-me-down clothes and homemade ice cream and leftover meatloaf sandwiches. I really would. I hope you learn humility by being humiliated, yeah. And then that you learn honesty by being cheated. I hope we learn to make your own bed and mow the lawn and wash the car. Here's a very important part coming up. I really hope no one gives you a brand new car on your 16th birthday. Did you get a car at 16?
No.
Hell no. Hell no. And it'd be good if at least one time in your life you see puppies being born and your old dog put to sleep. I hope you get a black eye fighting. In fact, I hope you get 2 black eyes fighting for something you believe in. I hope you share a bedroom with your younger brother and it's all right to have them draw a line down the middle of the room, but when he wants to crawl in under the covers with you is because he's scared. I hope you let him. When you want to see a movie and your little brother wants to tag along, I hope you let him. I hope you have to walk uphill to school with your friends and that you live in a town where you can do it safely. Tell us about your walking experience to the 2 high schools you went to simultaneously.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Well, high school was in the morning, and then after lunch was the trot.
So you walk from your house to high school, and then from high school to trot, and then from trot back home.
Yeah.
How many miles?
I'd say about 5 miles altogether.
Every day?
Yeah.
And you never asked your mother for a ride?
No.
You never asked your father for a ride?
Well, no. Neither of them drove.
So is this accepted?
Yeah.
No problem, it's accepted. Yeah. On rainy days when you have to catch a ride, I hope you don't ask your mother to drop you 2 blocks away so you won't be seen riding with someone as uncool as your mom. If you want a slingshot, I hope your dad teaches you how to make one instead of buying one. Another important part. I hope you learn to dig in the dirt and read books. How was your reading book experience when you were a kid?
Well, I had a book of the month club.
Tell us how that went.
Got book reports every month.
But tell us your experience, how you sneak books into the house.
Well, the book would come in before my mother came home from work.
It came into the mail.
Yeah, it came in the mail and I stuck it underneath the bed.
So you had to run out to the mailbox before she came home.
Yeah.
And then hide it where?
Underneath the bed.
Why did you have to hide your books?
Well, my mother said you're spending too much money on books.
Uh-huh. Could you imagine today how proud and happy a mother would be if their kid reads 2 books a week?
Yeah.
That's going to be beautiful. It'd be beautiful. Here's another important part. When you learn to use computers, I hope you also learn to add and subtract in your head. Kids can't subtract in their head.
No.
They go to the damn cell phone and they do all that work there.
Yeah.
Not one person today, I think, doesn't remember a phone number because it's all set up in your phone.
Yeah.
What was your phone number?
8866.
There you go. Almost 100 years later. Holy shit. Okay, let's see. I hope you get teased by your friends when you have your first crush on a girl, and when you talk back to your mother, you'll learn what Ivy soap tastes like. Okay, here's a very important part. I don't care if you have a beer once, but I hope you don't like it. And if a friend offers you dope or a joint, I hope you realize he is not your friend. May you feel sorrow at a funeral and joy during the holidays. I hope your mother punishes you when you throw a baseball through your neighbor's window and she hugs you and kisses you at Christmas time when you give her a plaster mold of your hand. These are the things I wish for you. Tough times and disappointment, hard work and happiness. To me, it's the only way to appreciate life. How true?
Yeah.
Well, we're in the 5th week of Lent, going right down the past to Easter. But I'm on page 74, minutes please, of chapter 4 of your book.
11.
Okay, I'm going to show you what I'm going to title this one as.
Okay.
And this is when Mr. Jeckovich is wandering the streets of Owensboro on pass. You're dressed in full uniform,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. This is when you're looking in a park. I felt resentful of young couples as they're part of something, a future with their young families for many years to come. I had no future, but the immediate present with no staunch advocate by my side urging me on. Watching their interaction with one another, I felt by the fact that I was never offered the opportunity to partake of a life that they were so obviously enjoyed. My mindset before the Army was focused on my immediate family, my parents, family, and nothing remotely with the self. My brothers were correct in their attitude. My brothers were correct in their attitude. Their self-centeredness gave them direction and well-being. For me, there was no direction, but a reaction and response to the immediate family to trials and tribulations. Then you went to eat Kresge's in Owensboro. It was like where you worked at with your mother. And this time was the first time at Kresge's. You ate up at the tables.
Yeah.
Because normally
upstairs, yeah.
Where?
Upstairs, yeah.
Because normally, how did you eat?
Downstairs, down
Your
the
mother
floor.
sent you to the basement to eat, right?
Basement, yeah.
Yeah, and then you went to the Glenmore Distillery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Following the directions given to me by the cook in the eatery, I went past City Hall and turned right at Frederica Street Extension, which led me to Frederica Street and finally Kentucky Avenue and Kentucky College. The college looked peaceful and inviting. It reminded me somewhat of the school that Steve was attending, but on a much smaller scale. There were students milling about, going to various buildings and dormitories. I stopped one and asked where the bookstore and library were located. Luckily they were in a close proximity to one another. So you just wandered on campus and you asked the student, where is the library and the bookstore?
Yeah.
That's your love of books, right?
Yeah.
I spent time in the library browsing about and books and reading some of the local newspapers, of which there are only 2. The student in the library was unconcerned about my present, and in the midst gradually I relaxed and began to enjoy myself. The bookstore had several buildings down and was rather small, well stocked with usual textbooks, magazines, and periodicals. As I walked to the store, several aisles, a clerk approached me and asked if she could be of assistance. I politely stated that I was just looking about and thanked her for offer the help. I felt uncomfortable after her offer of help, and after several minutes,
7.5.
I departed the bookstore and began walking about campus. It was a beautiful campus with many shady trees. Do you remember walking on that campus?
Yeah.
It was a beautiful campus with many shady trees and winding paths, leading into study areas and conversation pits. I sat in one of the study nooks and thought how great it would be to return to this very school after my tour of the Army was up. So you must have really liked that school.
Yeah.
Yeah. I immediately realized that would never come to fruition, dismissed the thought, and started to walk again. Not thinking where I was walking, but letting my mind wander in many thoughts, I was brought to the realization that I had been following the bridle path and was completely out of the college area. I turned to retrace my steps, and I discovered the path took many twists and turns. I looked at my watch nervously. It was past 1800 hours and time to get back to the bus station. So
Yeah.
you better get to the bus station,
You ever missed the last bus?
and then you'd be in big trouble, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Would they throw you in a brig?
No, but you get gigged out of there.
Yeah. It was as if I were in a giant maze getting deeper and deeper into the very centers of death. I forged recklessly ahead with no definite direction in mind, aimlessly looking for a familiar landmark or signpost. Finally, I saw the lights ahead appeared to be street lights. With a sigh of relief, I thought I was back into familiar territory and that nearby would be the bus station. As I approached the lights, there was a street, but it was not 4th or 5th. It was unfamiliar road, namely Tamarack Road. I was lost.
Yeah.
So now you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Now here's how Mr. Jeckovich meets Amy. In this paragraph here, 80 years later, the telephone call was made. Walking towards the middle of the block, I noticed there was 2 people talking in the front lawn of one of the houses and the other side of the street. When I crossed the street, they immediately noticed me and stopped talking. There were 2 young women in their early 20s. I excused myself for intruding on their privacy and asked them how to get back to the bus station in town. One of them instantly let out a short, feminine giggle and the other smiled and shifted her weight from one foot to another. You remembered all that?
Oh, yeah,
Holy shit. Unfucking believable. This took me back slightly, and I turned sharply and began to walk away from them. One of them immediately retorted that they'd be gladly to help me find my way back to the bus station and gave me directions. As she began to give me some directions, relative to the direction back, I did not hear a word she said. I began to notice her demeanor and appearance. She was attractive and appeared poised and self-assured. Needless to say, I did not hear much of her comments on the directions back to town. She must have noticed the confusion I displayed as she began to repeat herself regarding the directions. What I could gather from her conversation was that it was a distance to the bus station and hardly feasible to attempt to walk there. Besides, it was dark already. Oh, wow.
yeah.
I suggested a cab. She remarked that was not too reliable, as the cabs ran infrequently on Sunday. Her friend blurted out that they would drive me to the station in Annie's mother's car. Now, this is how you first met her.
Yeah.
This is the beginning. Annie, the one giving the directions, looked aghast at her friend's comment, but said nothing. I did not know what to say. I surely could use the ride back to the bus station, but I felt I could not impose on them as I hardly knew them. So, we're going to leave off from here, but you feel up to answering any questions?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Because questions always are coming in, and we got to answer it. Get some of them out. Mr. Jeckovich, you had 4 girlfriends during World War II. Did you ever break their hearts?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. When you wake up in the morning, Mr. Jeckovich, what is your number one priority?
Breakfast.
When you were growing up, Mr. Jeckovich, did you ever wish for a sports car?
A sports car? No, no.
Had no interest, right? Minutes, please. Mr. Jeckovich, as a boy, did you perform any magic tricks?
No, no, no.
2.5.
Mr. Jeckovich, what is the first thing you notice about other people?
Other people, that they start bragging.
If what?
They start bragging.
Okay. Mr. Jeckovich, you were building construction all your life, but what are some of the things you built by hand?
Oh, I built Sally's, Dr. White's daughter's Sally, dollhouse.
Was that big?
Oh, yeah, it was big.
And what else did you build?
I built a deck for Stevie,
Right? What else?
and I built a back, built an addition to the room in the back.
Tell us about that. You built that by yourself, right?
Yeah, well, Delphine helped me.
You built that with your wife.
Yeah.
And what exactly is it that you built there?
Did what?
What did you build there?
When I built it,
Yeah, what was it?
it wasn't an addition. It was added by itself.
Was it like a Florida room?
No, it was more of a workhouse.
Okay.
It was going to be a workhouse.
How long did it take you to build that addition?
Oh, the whole summer.
And you had high ceilings?
Yeah.
And didn't you behind it build 2 workshops?
The what?
2 workshops you built?
Yeah, yeah.
Tell me how long it took you to build the workshops.
Workshop?
Those workshops in your backyard, how long did it take you to build them?
All summer.
And you and your wife did that?
Oh, she was helping me. She wouldn't climb a ladder.
Did you climb the ladder?
Yeah.
Weren't you also putting up Christmas lights at 94 years old?
Huh?
Weren't you also putting up Christmas lights on the top of the house at 94 years old?
Yeah.
Jeez. You look back on that now and think,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
that could have put your lights up minutes?
25 seconds.
Yeah.
Wow. Did your wife yell at you for doing that?
No, no.
She allowed you to get up on that tall ladder?
She didn't mind it.
Way up there.
Yeah,
Jeez, you did that for decades, didn't you?
yeah.
Jeez, one slip.
Yeah,
But you did pretty good. You didn't fall, right?
yeah.
But didn't you build other things at the house too? What else did you build?